Screenless. Mike Marshall, graphic designer, creative mind, owner of creative agency Eat, Sleep, Think. Welcome to Creative Cuppa.
Thank you very much. I've got my Believe in Unicorn mug here with me. So
marvellous.
Yeah.
What's your cuppa of choice?
I'm having a cup of tea at the moment with a sweetener.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do tea all the time? Do you ever venture into the coffee kind of realm?
Yeah. Coffee. I think coffee goes with creativity, doesn't it? It certainly goes with my job. But recently, since lockdown, I've been drinking more tea because if I carry on drinking coffee all day, I can't sleep. So
yeah, I tend to do coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
Well, there you go. It's the afternoon. Yeah. It's time for tea.
Yeah, marvellous. Okay, so we've known each other quite a long time, haven't we?
Yeah, 25 years, something
like that.
Yeah,
and full disclosure, when I went professional and became a composer, you were the first person to give me a bit of work, which was lovely.
Yeah,
set me off on a path.
I think before that you were doing you were creating flash videos for us as well.
Oh yeah. Back in the crikey.
Can you remember the coconut?
Yeah.
Cool as a coconut.
Seems like a different lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's go back. I mean, we can talk about the magical mix of creativity and business in a bit, but I'd like to go right back to the start.
Right, okay.
Mike Marshall, teenager. Were you a teenager when you got into graphic design? How did it all begin?
My parents were both what was considered at the time working class, and I'd been fascinated with art and drawing ever since I was about probably old enough to pick up a pen, really. My grandparents, my dad's mum, used to buy me comics every Wednesday. And for those listening, Wednesday used to be the changeover day for comics. So she used to go to the newsagent, buy me a couple of comics. Well, me and my brother, but I used to read them. He just used to eat the sweets that were in the paper bag that she used to provide. And I got caught up with a comic called 2000 AD. And I've been reading it ever since. In fact, I'm 50 on Tuesday, and I worked out that I'd been reading 2000 AD for 43 years of my entire life.
Wow.
And I think that's what got me into the art. Definitely. Fantastic artists, Mick McMahon, Carlos Esquerra, Brian Boland, all the big greats, all the fantastic artists. They really inspired me to draw. And I wanted to be a comic book artist. And when I got to the age of 13, it was a strange world. It was the miners' strike started in 84, and that affected a lot of industries in our area in Sheffield greatly. My dad got laid off. He went from job to job to job. And so I felt really bad about putting on my parents and putting on them to support me if I wanted to be a comic book artist or something like that. I wanted to go to art college and they supported me through that. But I wanted a job in art that paid money. And in 1983, the UK government brought out graphic design O-level. And I was one of the first students in the country to take a graphic design O-level course. And I didn't know what graphic design was. I just knew from doing a bit of research that it was like a commercial side of art where you could actually get employed and create logos and posters and whatnot and get paid to do it. And that seemed to me to be like a logical progression from wanting to be a comic book artist and wanting to be an illustrator, which was difficult to get into and didn't pay a lot of money, to do graphic design that seemed to be more of a vocational style of art. And I didn't know what it was, and so I took it on, and I quite enjoyed it. I had a really good teacher, Mr. Bailey, a typical art teacher. Yeah, he was good. He was a good inspiration, and he put me on the right track. And then I left school, went to Chesterfield College, did a OND in graphic design, and then went on to Bolton Institute of Higher Education. And it was a bit of a strange choice, really. I could have stayed around Sheffield, and I could have gone to Derby. And Derby at the time was a fantastic graphic design course. But I've always been one of these people that don't necessarily believe in myself that much, in my skills. I always tend to ground myself quite well, and probably a little bit too much, and sort of like that sort of tends to push me into the pessimistic side. But I think that I went to Bolton because it wasn't one of the major colleges in the country that were doing graphic design, and I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to sort of like fail getting on the course and then go for my second choice. So I made really a second choice college my first choice. Okay. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. It was a fantastic experience. Every single tutor was from industry. So they came in on a part-time basis, set briefs. They had their own agencies that they were running in Manchester and Bolton and Blackburn and all of those type of places. And they used to come in every week and give us some fantastic briefs and some amazing real-world insight into graphics and a real sort of like vocational training for what was to come. And one of my heroes, I suppose you could say, or well, several of them, but there's two that spring to mind. One is Trevor Lofthouse, who was the head of the course, and he always used to talk like this, and he always used to come up to your drawing board really, really closely and go, "Oh, I love those marker techniques, Mike, they're gorgeous." And he always used to have a John Player special in one hand, fagging it away around the studio. Because back in those days, obviously, smoking wasn't seen to be the pariah type habit that it is now. And then there was Richard Morris from Drawing Board in Manchester. He had an agency, did a lot of work with Reebok, who were based in Preston. And ironically, years later, I ended up working for an agency who did a lot of work for Reebok, and we ended up collaborating with Drawing Board. So that was quite nice.
That's fantastic. So following your experiences in Bolton, Mike goes to work. So how long did it take for you to wake up one day and say, actually, you know what, I'm going to set up on my own?
I don't think you wake up and say, I'm going to set up on my own. I'd hit a wall. I was working for an agency. I had been working for an agency for about 7 years. First started off being called Resource. It was set up by myself and Annie Harriman, who was a director of EMAP. And over time, it morphed into another agency named Artisan. And I was working for Artisan for about 5 or 6 years, something like that. And I was creative director, and I was doing 80 plus hours a week.
Wow.
Sometimes, not all the time, but quite a lot of the time. And it just took its toll on me. And one day I can remember just going in and saying, "That's it. I'm handing in my notice." And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd got some money saved up in the bank, not a lot, and decided, right, I'm just going to go freelance. I'm just going to take a break and just go off on my own for a bit. And ironically, about, literally less than a week since I'd left, I had Artisan clients contacting me. Now, obviously, we'd got this clause where I wasn't allowed to contact them, and that wasn't my intention whatsoever. My intention was to just go off and freelance for other agencies in Nottingham and the local area, and just enjoy myself, not having the responsibility of managing a team and heading up big projects, etc., and just kick back and do a bit of graphic design work and get paid. I think it was at that time. I think the going rate was about £15 an hour. And so then I made the decision to go out on my own, working for these folks that got in touch with me. And that's how Eat, Sleep, Think was formed, really. The name came out from a letter that I wrote to Design Week that got published, all about Alan Fletcher from Pentagram, there was an article on Alan's working day, and it said, he gets in at 10 o'clock in the morning, sits with his creatives, goes through the work and whatnot, and then, does his own projects, then leaves about 3 in the afternoon. And at the time, I'd been working flat out, and I've always believed that design is your life. Your life is design. There is no line that you can draw. And quite naively, I wrote a letter to Design Week, and in one of my comments was, we eat, sleep, think design. We are designers and all this lot. So it's quite pompous and very, very naive, because looking back on it now, and the way that I run my agency, I get in about 9:30, sometimes leave about 4:30. I
don't suppose it means that you don't think about design when you're not working.
No.
You just have that kind of brain.
And obviously now looking back, Alan Fletcher is was one of the greats. He's up there with Milton Glaser, Neville Brody, and all of those graphic designer rock stars, and I've got a lot of respect for his work and the agency Pentagram, which is obviously still going, that he set up. Absolutely incredible creative mind. It's just ironic that my agency was named after a letter I wrote to him, and how the name itself has morphed over the years, and now we're known as EST. Just because basically everybody calls us EST, because they can't bother to say eat, sleep, think. They just everybody likes to abbreviate everything.
It's quite nice though, because your logo looks like the abbreviation for established as well, which I think is quite a nice.
Yeah,
because you are very well established. You have many big clients around the world and award-winning, and more recently, actually, with the epidemic as it is, you've kind of gone a route which is to try and help small businesses. Yeah. Because you feel like they're going to be some of the most affected.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of businesses that fall through the cracks. Ours included. I'm a company director, so I can't claim for a self-employment help because I'm not self-employed. I earn a wage, but I don't earn a wage, I earn a dividend. And also our offices are rated separately. So we haven't been able to claim the 10 grand because we can't claim small business rates. So, I think a lot of businesses are finding it difficult to adapt. And so I'm a member of a BNI network, and it's a formal networking group. Some people like it, some people don't. I particularly like it. It's good because it's every Tuesday morning. It gets me up for the week. I get to talk to different business people, and I get to share experiences with them, and we help and support each other. And I think throughout my entire life, I have always wanted to give back. And I don't know where this comes from. I really don't. But for instance, we've always had a preferential rate for third sector charities, NGOs. We always offer them our hourly rate at cost. And I've always done that. And I don't know whether it's my dad that influenced me, because he was a great exponent for supporting communities and helping people and going above and beyond to help others, with no real reward asked for. And I feel exactly the same. And so when the coronavirus hit, I thought, how can I support the fellow members of my BNI chapter, but also what skills have the fellow members of my BNI chapter got that I can get in front of other businesses? One, to support the BNI folks, but also it was a very complicated time. And it's strange that it was a very complicated time. Sounds like it's years ago, but it's only a few weeks, but it feels like it's years ago. And so I did an interview with my accountant, Matthew Howe from Wilson Howe, and he very neatly, he's a brilliant accountant, very neatly told everybody in layman's terms on his thoughts on what you should be doing as a business. Spoke to my business coach, Mark Self, etc., and I think now I've lost count of how many videos we've done since this started. It must be getting on for 20 plus videos, interviews, and also a series that I've started called Pivoting with Purpose. I love my alliterations.
Yeah.
And for me, alliterations appeal to my autistic aspect of me, and it just feels complete when you say an alliteration. It just the whole sentence feels complete and it feels clever. So I don't know. I mean, it's also a cliche, I know, but that's just me. That's who I am.
Yeah, I think those videos probably helped more people than you realise.
I hope so.
Where can people catch up with those videos?
Well, we've got our website, eatsleepthink.com/videos, surprisingly. The majority of them are on there. Also, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. Just do a search for Eat, Sleep, Think, all one word, and you'll find us. Yeah.
I'll put those in the show notes as well.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, thank you ever so much for joining me for a cuppa.
That's all right.
It's been wonderful.
I'll bring some biscuits next time.
Bring some biscuits next time.